A long time ago, I briefly lived with my good friend Ben on a quiet street in Northville, Michigan, not far from Detroit. The neighborhood wasn't great, and the house wasn't anything special, but for two broke young guys, the price was impossible to beat. Ben and I had been friends since we were about 9, and at the time of this story, we were working the same job, so moving in together seemed like a perfect plan. On our first day there, we quickly realized that the eerie-looking house across the street, its yard overgrown with weeds and bushes, was abandoned. In fact, many houses in the area were empty, something we somehow hadn't noticed before. Graffiti covered parts of the fence and a wall near one of the front windows. Our neighbors on one side seemed shady, and we had no interest in talking to them. The neighbor on the other side was an older, eccentric, hippie-type guy named Marv, with long gray hair and a matching beard. He seemed friendly at first, but there was something off about him. He was just hard to talk to. On our second day after work, we had a chat with Marv. He told us that the house across the street had been abandoned for as long as he could remember. That evening, as the sun was setting, Ben and I sat outside on the front steps, smoking. I glanced at the house across the street and suddenly felt a shiver down my spine. My heart dropped. I jumped up, crushed my cigarette underfoot, and pointed at an upstairs window. "Do you see that? There's someone in that window." Ben immediately looked, but just before he could see, the figure moved out of sight. The glass was too foggy to make out any details. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, young or old. All I knew was that they had been staring right at us. Ben said I was creeping him out, but he believed me. We ran to Marv's house to tell him, but strangely, even though we could see him sitting in his cluttered living room watching TV, he didn't answer the door. That made everything even creepier. "Dude, what the is going on with this place?" Ben muttered. At first, we tried to laugh it off, but the situation was getting way too weird. Ben had a katana. Yeah, an actual katana. He grabbed it and suggested we go check out the house ourselves. We had always been adventurous as kids, and this was exactly the kind of reckless thing we would have done back then. Once it was dark, we crossed the street to the backyard, pried off the wooden board keeping the back door shut, and stepped inside. We both had heavy-duty flashlights, and as we illuminated the rooms, we noticed something odd. Despite the house being abandoned for years, it looked mostly untouched. No graffiti, no signs of vandalism. Still, the place had an unsettling atmosphere. We joked about getting the Russian out of there, but we pressed on. The first floor was tiny, just like our own place. A kitchen, a small living room, a dining area, and a single closet. No basement. Once we cleared it, we agreed to check upstairs. As we tiptoed toward the stairs, Ben suddenly shouted, "Is anyone up there?" "Dude, what the is wrong with you?" I hissed. Then we froze. Heavy footsteps thundered above us, sprinting toward the stairway. My heart nearly stopped. Ben, still holding the katana, grabbed my arm and yanked me toward the back door. We bolted out of the house and ran straight home. As we caught our breath, we noticed Marv standing by his window, staring at us. Just staring, not moving. We didn't call the police. Instead, we packed up and left the very next day, telling the landlord the place just wasn't working for us. We drove away and never looked back.